Welcome back to the Gamekeeper's Cottage Diaries. Welcome back to Gamekeeper's Cottage. It's the third week of June, and this week we're going to be doing one of our major summer projects that we had to do, which is the roofing on this side of the extension. Now, I want to start off with a disclaimer. I'm not a professional roofer. I'm not trained apart from what I've learnt on YouTube. So this is not a how-to video. This is a how I did it video. So we are going to be totally removing all of the tiles on this side of the roof. The breathable membrane underneath is, from what I can see, totally destroyed, so that is also going to be first removed. So I will need to remove the battens, put in some new damp proof membrane, and then reinstall all the tiles. Now, as I mentioned, we are doing this side of the roof, but the first thing I'm going to be doing is getting up on the other side of the roof and removing the ridge tiles and the top couple of rows of tiles that I previously laid last year temporarily, just so that we can put a bit of breathable membrane over the top. So I didn't do that last year because it would have meant having to remove tiles on this side and I didn't have time. So let's go around to the other side and we'll get the scaffolding set up and get up on the roof. So here we are, round at the other side of the roof by the front door, and we've got our scaffolding tower set up. So let's climb up on top and have a look at what we're dealing with. So here we are up on top of the scaffolding, and we're just looking across at the tiles that we replaced last year. So the reason I actually did this last year was that we developed a leak in our dining room, which is below the far end of this part of the roof. And on removing some of the tiles, we discovered that the breathable membrane had totally rotted through. We think it must have been at least 20-25 years old. So last year I removed all of the tiles on this side and the battens underneath, and then put down some new breathable membrane and replaced the tiles on top. As you can see, we currently have a temporary solution of some trash bags underneath the top. This was just because I didn't want to bed in the ridge tiles, so they've just been left laying on the top over the winter and have fortunately survived. We also have an area at the end that we need to do a bit of work on where there's a bit too much mortar, but again, I left that knowing that I would have to do the other side. But our first task is going to be removing the ridge tiles, and I think probably the top 2, maybe 3 layers of tiles, so that I can get at the batten underneath and then lay a bit of breathable membrane over the top. But let's crack on with removing the tiles on this side. So that's all the ridge tiles removed, apart from the one at the end, which is mortared in at the end. So I'll have to move the scaffolding tower around the other end of the roof so I can actually get at the mortar and chisel that away. I still need to remove a couple of rows of tiles, as I said, but I'm going to stop recording now because my phone was in a rather precarious situation attached to the edge of the scaffolding, and I don't really want to lose my phone. So I'm just going to be coming back with some updates regularly on how we're progressing. But that took about 10 minutes just to remove those ridge tiles. It's about 20 minutes later, and as you can see, I've removed the top 2 rows of the tiles from this side of the roof. The next job is to remove this top batten here, so that the old underlay and the new bit of underlay can go underneath it. But before that, I'm just going to quickly measure the gap between there, so that when I put the batten back later on, I know where it has to go to get the tiles to lay properly. So let's crack on with removing the batten. Okay, so that's the batten removed as much as I can from this side. We've just got 1 or 2 nails probably that are under the end of that remaining ridge tile. So I'm now going to dismantle the scaffolding tower and move it round to the back garden so that I can get at the other end of the roof and just remove that remaining ridge tile. And then we can get rid of the batten, and then we can start on the main job of removing the tiles on the other side. I'm round in the back garden now, ready to start building the scaffolding tower, and as you can see in front of us, we have a slight problem. This is where the scaffolding tower needs to go. So I think we're going to have to do a bit of emergency gardening first to actually be able to get in there and build the tower. And then we can start removing the tiles at this end. Well, after half an hour of hacking at brambles and stinging nettles and other things, I've finally managed to get the scaffolding tower in place. It's not ideal, it's still a bit bumpy underground, but it's stable, secure enough for me to be able to get up on the roof. So I'm now going to start removing the tiles on this end that are mortared in. As you can see, I've removed that final ridge tile together with a few of the tiles that are next to it. The next job is to start removing the remainder of these edge tiles that are mortared in place. After we've done that, things should start getting a lot easier. Good morning. It's day 2, and yesterday afternoon we had a bit of heavy rain, so I ended up putting a tarp over the roof and calling it a day early. But as you can see, yesterday we got about a third of the tiles removed, also loosened all the battens at this end. I'm just in the process of dismantling the scaffolding tower to move it along a bit, and then we're going to move on to the next bit of the roof and carry on for as long as we can in between the rain. It's the end of day 2, and as you can see, all of the tiles have been removed together with about half of the battens. It's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would, mainly because of having to position the scaffolding in weird places to try and actually get to all the tiles. But I will be cracking on again in the morning, removing the rest of the battens, and then starting by putting the breathable membrane on, and then starting to refit everything. Battens on, and then the tiles. I was originally thinking this was going to be a three-day job. I'm now thinking probably 4 days, but we'll see. It's the start of day 3, and after about an hour or so's work, I've finally removed all of the battens off of the roof, together with the old damp-proof membrane that was falling to pieces. Most of that is now gone. I'm off round to the stables now to cut the new membrane to length. Right, I'm round here by the stables and I've got a length of, or a roll of, 20 metre by 1 metre roofing underlay. The roof we're replacing is about 6 metres long, so I'm going to cut this roll into lengths of about 6.5 metres. So it should give us ample coverage. Right, so I've cut my roll of underlay to the 6.5 metre lengths and I'm now ready to start putting it on the roof. But here's a quick handy tip. If you use a clothes peg to hold it closed at the roll, you can roll out lengths to nail and keep control of it better. Otherwise it has a habit of unrolling and blowing away. Time for lunch, and as you can see and hear, it is now extremely windy. Having a bit of a problem with the underlay blowing around even using the pegs. But hopefully, given another half hour or so, I should get the remaining little bit at the top done and just trim the edge off. Well, after a massive struggle against the wind, I finally have all of the underlay nailed in place. You can probably see the bit at the top needs to be wrapped over to the other side and nailed there, so that's why that's blowing around. The lower bit I haven't actually nailed at the bottom because I want to give myself some space to put my feet, so that's why that is blowing up, but I will do those later. On to the next stage now, which is reinstalling the battens. The sun is back out, it's still very windy, but progress is being made with fitting the battens, as you can see. After a lot of time spent clambering over the roof, nailing in battens, and suffering from one severely bruised thumb, all of the battens are now nailed in, and it's time to start putting the tiles back, which I'm going to be starting in this bottom left hand corner. I'll be starting from probably the third row to give me some space to actually tread on the top of the wall so I can reach the top of the tiles, and then I will fit the final batten at the bottom and the bottom 2 layers of tiles after I've done all the rest of the tiles. The first section of tiles is done and the scaffolding has been moved along, ready to start on the next section of tiles. Another quick progress update. We're now about halfway with the tiling. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to carry on for another 2 or 3 hours, see how much we can get done. The main body of the tiles are now all complete, as you can see. So the next task will be putting in the final batten at the bottom, and then putting the bottom 3 rows of tiles in. Finally, after a lot of effort, all of the tiles, apart from a few in the bottom right hand corner that I can't reach from the side, are now back on. I am now moving the scaffolding round to the front of the house, and I am going to work on the last edge of the tiles and those bottom few tiles in the corner that I couldn't reach from the side. Good afternoon, it's Future Ian here from the editing suite. Unfortunately, while putting the video together, I've discovered that a number of the later clips for this video somehow got lost. So you left me as I was about to complete the last few tiles after I'd moved the scaffolding tower round to the front of the property. After about another hour or two's work, I fitted those tiles. I put all of the ridge tiles back on, and also the end tiles at the back of the property that you might have noticed were missing. The only thing that I didn't get done over that week of working was the actual mortaring in of the 2 sets of end tiles, but that will be a job for the future. I've just made it all watertight, again using rubbish bags, which will just keep out any rain and any little nasties that want to try and crawl in there. All that remains is for me to thank you for watching and to ask that if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and join us in the comments below to help the channel grow. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.